Scratches is a famous cult horror point-and-click adventure game with a very interesting story. And very often players have questions about events in the game. Some events are indeed quite confusing, but if you study in detail all the notes, letters and all kinds of hints in the game, compare the facts and think carefully, then everything falls into place. Who killed Catherine? What happened to James? Who did James ask to kill in a letter to Christopher Milton? I finally and irrevocably greet you, my friends. Zodi is here. In this video article we will analyze the plot of the game and answer all your questions in as much detail as possible. Let's first remember the main events of the game and the additional chapter The Last Visit. On the 12th of October 1976, Saturday, Michael Arthate, a writer, arrives at his new home, the Blackwood Manor. The house was purchased through his friend and realtor Jerry P. Carter. The house turns out to have a tragic history. Robin, the newborn son of former owners James and Catherine Blackwood, who was born on August 7, 1961, died shortly after birth, on August 10. 2 years later, on May 24, 1963, Catherine Blackwood died, and the maid Eva Mariani accused James Blackwood of murdering his wife. A week later, on June 1, 1963, James Blackwood died of a heart attack. After that, a family friend, Dr. Christopher Milton, lived in the house for 5 years, and then he suddenly left the house. The house was abandoned. Michael also learns that the mansion holds other secrets. James Blackwood, an engineer, while in Africa, found the Equatorial Bushman tribe, the Dalmar, who worshipped a mask. He stole this mask and brought it home. Michael investigates further and learns many terrible details. It turns out that the mask contains the ancient Bushman cat god Dalhom, and the Dalmar tribe kept him inside. Now he's breaking out. James Blackwood, with the help of Christopher Milton, wanted to perform a ritual to calm down the evil god, but nothing worked out. Michael has to perform this ritual. He also finds Catherine's corpse and learns that Robin Blackwood is in fact alive. It also turns out that Jerry is a fraud. He deceived Michael, and in fact the house is not sold and Michael has to leave it. Michael leaves, and the house is abandoned again for a long time. 10 years later, a reporter comes to the Blackwood Manor hoping to find material for an article, since the mansion will be soon demolished. Over the years, many looters visited the mansion, and everything was stolen or destroyed. However, the reporter finds the mask and Robin, who attacks him. But suddenly someone enters the mansion and Robin attacks the person who entered. The reporter runs away. The Blackwood mansion is being demolished, and on the ruins of the mansion we can see an intact mask. Here is a brief summary of the game's plot. Now, let's answer all the important and popular questions that many players have. Question: was the curse of the mask real? Or is this all self-hypnosis? Answer: yes, it was. With Christopher, as he himself later wrote in a diary in the living room and a note in his room. The same thing happened as with James, although before that he did not believe James at all and thought that it was just a psychological disorder. In addition, in the greenhouse there is a note from James that since he brought the mask, even the plants in the greenhouse have withered. It was the mask that forced James to steal it, since while the Bushman tribe Dalmar had the mask, the cat god Dalhom could not escape. James was hypnotized by the mask when he first saw it. When Christopher began living in the mansion, he began to hear voices, drums and singing coming from the gallery. Also, it should be noted that in a dream, Michael saw a secret door boarded up in a gallery, which he did not know about before. The mask was calling him this way, just like it later called Robin, who in the last visit was hiding in the bathroom with the mask. Question: why was Robin born a freak? Answer: because of the drug thalidomide, which Catherine took during pregnancy. This is a real drug used in the middle of the last century as a sedative. As it turned out later, it has a terrible side effect. When the drug is used during pregnancy, it disrupts the development of the fetus and leads to terrible defects. It was banned in 61st, but allowed again in 98th. The drug jar is in the chest of drawers in the master bedroom and can be found in the last visit. The curse of the mask had nothing to do with it. However, it will affect Robin later on. Question: did Catherine know that Robin was alive? Answer: yes, she did. In a letter from Christopher to Catherine, which is hidden in a box in the library, he mentions something they all did 2 years ago. This means that they did it together. The letter was written in 63rd, which means it's about what they did in 61st. They falsified Robin's death. Question: who killed Catherine? Was it Robin or James? Answer: Catherine was killed by Robin. Detective Bailey said that Eva Mariani saw a serious wound on Catherine. Her throat was torn. In Robin's basement there is a teddy bear, also with its throat torn out. Examining the bear, Michael immediately remembers the detective's words.
And was ever determined the cause of death of Catherine Blackwood?
Yes, partly. Mrs. Mariani managed to see her throat was slit open. Ripped, she would say. It must have been horrible for the poor girl.
Question: why and how did Robin kill his mother? Answer: it was an animal attack of rage due to the influence of the mask. The baby tore the woman's throat with his bare hands, just as members of the Dalmar tribe did. How cats do it. How the cat god Dalhom did it. Despite the fact that the curse of the mask had nothing to do with Robin's physical defects. When the child's consciousness began to form, the mask still subjugated him. Question: why the investigation of Catherine's death was closed? Answer: as Detective Bailey said, James was very famous and had influence with authorities. Christopher also interfered with the investigation. Police was never able to obtain permission to conduct a search and excavation on the territory of the mansion. In addition, James died of a heart attack, and the investigation was closed. Detective Bailey subsequently tried to find at least some evidence of Dr. Milton's involvement in this, but achieved nothing. Question: what happened to James? Answer: on June 1st, 1963, James died of a heart attack. It is he who lies in the coffin in the family crypt. In his last letter to Christopher, he wrote that something might happen to him. He understood that he was in danger. The mask is very good at scaring through hallucinations, and it's obvious that James died from fear, which was also mixed with the stress of events with Catherine and his accusation of murder. Question: who did James ask to kill in his letter to Christopher in the chapel? In a letter to Christopher, James asked him to become a cold-blooded murderer and forget his vow, implying the Hippocratic Oath. So, who was he supposed to kill? Answer: Robin. James believed that Robin's deformity was caused by the curse of the mask. In the same letter, he mentions this in passing. He wanted Christopher to help him perform a ritual with an amulet, which required something organic that represented the victim and the victimizer. James considered Robin a victim. Question: what were those scratching sounds? Answer: it was Robin. He was just trying to get out. The sound was distorted by the pipes. Question: why didn't Michael tell anyone anything after everything that happened? Answer: Michael believed in the mask curse and didn't want it to get out, so he kept it a secret, just as the Delmar tribe did for thousands of years. The reporter puts forward this same idea at the beginning of the last visit.
You can forget about that. Mr. Arhate rarely speaks to the press, and less so about this story. Not even the most experienced and reputed reporters in the field have convinced him to talk.
I'm glad to hear you think so highly of me, sir. Perhaps he decided that preserving the mystery would be in the best interests of everyone.
No, I think he's a very unstable fella, and his solution was probably as far-fetched as what town people were rumoring back in the 60s.
Question: what did Robin eat after the death of Catherine and James? Answer: Christopher fed him. In the attic, we find the recipe for the delivery of meat. In the basement where Robin lived all this time, bloody streaks are visible under the bars, and below are the remains of meat. Christopher was dumping raw meat there, and under the leaking pipe lies a bucket into which water flowed for drinking. You can also see piles of small red bones. After the whole house-selling situation, Christopher didn't come over to feed Robin anymore. Robin was able to get out of the basement and ate small animals and sometimes people. As we can see in the last visit, judging by the scattered things, not all of the looters managed to leave the manor. In addition, hooligans probably also visited the manor from time to time. Question: who came at the end of the last visit? Answer: Christopher. He asked Robin for forgiveness. I had to see you before I returned to my dying bed, he says. There is a fairly logical theory that James did not actually die, but his death was falsified by Christopher, that James ended up killing Christopher and putting him in a coffin in the family crypt, and that in the last visit it was James who came in at the end. A refutation of this is Christopher's diary in the living room, in which he wrote about James with regret, as if he was a dead man who is no longer around. In addition, as Jerry wrote in a letter to Michael, according to his information, after Christopher left the mansion, he drank in lousy bars, which means he was alive for some time. Question: why did Robin attack Christopher? Answer: Robin was influenced by the mask from infancy. He was a wild and cruel creature, ready to attack anyone. Considering that the last time Christopher came to feed him was many years ago, Robin probably doesn't even remember him. So he didn't hesitate to attack Christopher. And by the way, another proof of Robin's wild nature. The reporter was lying on the floor, and when Christopher entered, it was Robin's animal instincts that told him to attack a standing target, since it poses a greater threat than a lying one. Well, that's it. We answered the questions that many players ask after beating the game. As a community mod of the developer of the game, I see such questions very often. I hope you found this video useful and interesting. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. As usual, Zodi was with you. Good luck, my friends. See you in the new, wonderful videos. Bye.